Are you rich yet? You should be if you've been listening to Gridiron Eve. Welcome into the show, guys. He's Mike Huseman. I'm John Vogel. And we are Gridiron Eve. We have a bunch of great games that we're going to discuss today, talking about a lot of different good stuff. But to get us all started off, as always, Mike Huseman from the University of South Carolina itself. How are you doing today?
Doing well, obviously. Glad to be here as usual. We had another fantastic week of college football last weekend. Probably not as noteworthy as the one before that, but there are few weekends that are that noteworthy. But last weekend alone, we had some very good games. And last night, we had a couple good games on. Three games, all of which I saw a little bit of. But yeah, going back to last week, the games we talked about then, Ole Miss was knocked from the ranks of the unbeaten. Alabama got back on track. Syracuse also dropped their first one, as did UCLA. And then there was just a lot of other, I would say good games, but maybe none that stood out a ton last
Well, I
weekend.
mean, when coming off a week where Tennessee takes down Alabama in that dramatic fashion,
Yep.
it kind of puts this whole damper on the whole next week where it's like, oh, that was a good
Absolutely.
game, but
Yep.
oh, it wasn't like last week. Last week was amazing. It's like we have this expectation that's set.
Yeah. I think that's very fair. Yeah.
So I think that's what happened with that. But no,
Yeah.
it was a good week. It was a good week. I actually got to sit home through it. I get to sit home this week too. Next week I do have to go back to drill, but that should be the last week for a couple months that I have to miss games for.
Nice.
But yeah, so anyways, yeah, Tennessee is 7-0, so here I am, obviously. Full on repping my state because we are killing it. And couldn't
some of them are killing it. Some of them, Memphis isn't really killing it.
Okay, well, by state, I just meant straight up Tennessee. Okay, I'll clarify.
That's fair. They are killing it.
I couldn't. Yeah. Let's be honest, man. When you're in Tennessee, if you are a Tennessee fan, you really could care less about a couple things, right? And those couple things are Vanderbilt, because Vanderbilt's just kind of they're in the SEC. Yep. Okay, big deal. All right, we'll go to their games if our team's playing there. That's about the only time we'll go.
Yep.
And then we've got
it's about the only time. Heck, some Vandy fans don't even go when they're doing that.
Most Vandy fans don't. Yeah, they're like, we're playing Missouri this week. We'll lose that one. We'll wait for a game that we'll win, like Eastern Illinois. Yeah. So you got that, and then so Memphis is kind of they're up and down and everything, but I'm gonna sound, people are gonna kill me for saying this, but you don't really only go to Memphis and Tennessee unless you're trying to get shot. So. And then you've got MTSU, which I guess is a good one, but it's Conference USA. Conference USA's lost a lot of their power to the Sun Belt because the Sun Belt came in and basically took whatever they wanted. You've got East Tennessee State. You got Tennessee State. Tennessee State's fun. What's his name? Eddie George, the head coach there now.
There.
Yep. So that's always fun. They got a couple of good players that I'm keeping an eye on this year.
Good.
But yeah. So that's kind of what. If you're Tennessee. And you say you're repping my state, and you're a Vol fan, you're definitely talking Go Orange, Big Orange. You're not talking about any of those other schools. We don't care about them.
That's fair. I can respect that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like South Carolina, right? You guys are in this argument right now whether you are the actual USC, right?
We are I don't want to say the argument is ongoing, but we're rebrand. Like we were USC. Then we, for official, university letterhead, then it went to U of SC. Now it's going back to USC.
Well, you're not USC. That's the thing. That's Southern California.
We have been around longer, far, far longer than they have. I'll be honest, I'm one of the people, and maybe it's because I did an undergrad here. I'm not from this state. I don't really care which we are. I will say the new logo itself is actually really sharp. I like it a lot, but for me, it's one of those where the name doesn't. It's semantics to me that doesn't make a big difference. But I get to some people it does.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely USC is, and I'm an SEC guy. USC is Southern California. Like that's just it. Ever since I got into football, I've always seen it spelled out USC. It's not Southern Cal. So, and South Carolina is always spelled out. So it's definitely Southern California is USC. But let's go ahead. Let's start talking betting, man, because
Okay.
you killed it last week.
I did.
And
Yeah.
destroyed me.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to be up 10, and then we had 4 challenges last week. I had went with Rutgers -3 over Indiana. You challenged me, and Rutgers came out ahead.
Yeah, they sure did.
Then
Congrats.
I liked Marshall plus 12.5 over James Madison, and they won outright. So Marshall played one of their, after the Notre Dame game, probably their best game of the year.
Yeah, definitely. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. I went UCLA plus 6.5 over Oregon. You challenged me and you beat me on that one. The Ducks looked awesome. That was one of those where I was surprised. Like, I knew they were decent, but I watched them. I'm like, whoa, this team is legit. Like, Oregon,
they've played great since that loss to Georgia. Like, they've just been outstanding. And I think that loss to Georgia was everything that, Dan Lanning needed. Hey, maybe I'm not crazy for thinking Dan Lanning is going to be a top tier coach in the Pac-12, right?
Absolutely. I never doubted he'd be a good coach. I just wasn't ready to say he was as good as Chip Kelly at that point. I'm still not ready to say that.
Well, he outcoached him the first time. Absolutely. So that's a good start.
Played awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And then our last game was one of your picks, your only pick that I challenged. You had Purdue plus 2.5 over Wisconsin, and the Badgers really showed up to play.
Badgers really,
they look good.
That's like, I guess we really can't talk enough about what Lenhart has done to that program and how he's revitalized it since taking over. I think he's going to be the head coach next year, 100%.
Let's see. Right now, Wisconsin is 4-4. And I'd say if they win 3 more games, counting the bowl game, he has it locked up. Yeah. I'm going to look. I actually have their schedule up there, so we can look at Wisconsin. So they have Maryland at home. They're off tomorrow. Wisconsin is
right.
Maryland at home next weekend. I think they probably lose that one. Is that what you just said?
Yeah,
as well?
That's what I said. I said loss.
Yep. Then they go to Iowa. I have no idea what it's 2 teams that basically have the same pitfalls right now.
That's a tough one. I would lean Wisconsin on that.
I might lean Iowa because it's in Iowa, and I mean, God, we might have an over/under of that game at 23.
20-something.
Considering how bad they both are.
And it might still hit the under.
Yep. Then Wisconsin goes to Nebraska. I think they probably get a win there.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then they always end the year with Minnesota, which this year is in Camp Randall. Gophers beat them last year. That's another one. We don't know what Minnesota we're going to have. Like, is Tanner Morgan going to be hurt? Ibrahim's been.
I think he's supposed to be back this week, isn't he, Tanner Morgan?
He is. No, Morgan is supposed to be back. Yes. Yeah. But it's another game where, like, we looked at the 4 Wisconsin games, and they could win 3 of them. They could win 0 of them. Like, there's no consistency there so far.
So it's kind of funny because, just because Tanner Morgan came up, and I was having to pain myself to go back and look at some tape of him as an NFL draft prospect. Yeah. But what I kind of found was the first thing about Tanner Morgan is the very, very personal evaluation for me. Because back when I was a young aspiring NFL draft analyst with, just not many followers and, still new to the game, still in my first couple of websites.
Tanner Morgan was in his 4th year of college at that time.
Yeah, something, whatever. Tanner Morgan was a legit NFL prospect, and we were all talking about him on Twitter, and his dad reached out to me.
Oh, nice.
And asked me what I thought about his son, this, that, da-da-da. He said he'd read some of my stuff talking about him, and he was just looking for more clarification. And so we discussed. He gave me some really great advice on just, working and talking to different people and in this kind of stuff. As a parent, he said, you just kind of told me what, a parent, wants to hear. And he said, look, man, don't try to sweet talk me about my kid. Like, I know my kid has problems. Yeah. I know that he's not a perfect prospect. He said, I just want to hear honestly what your honest opinion is. And I guess at that point, because it's always really difficult to talk to a parent of a player like that and say, well, yeah, your son, I know you love him, I know that you have all this faith in him, but here's my issue with him. And just I think that was one of the first times I was able to really be straightforward with a parent and just tell them exactly, like, okay, look, here's the thing, and bring up the different examples and whatever. But yeah, and it was about 3 months later he died. So
it was that soon. Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was. Nobody knew he was sick. I certainly didn't know.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so when that one happened, that kind of hit me. That was one of those, dang, I was just talking to this guy 3 months ago, but really smart guy. He was one of those types of people that when you meet them or when you just talk with them, they leave a lasting impression on you. That was his dad. And so Tanner Morgan. So I like Tanner Morgan as a person. As a prospect, it's a little bit harder. But the thing with him too is he has all these different things that NFL teams are looking for. He's got a quick release, played in a pro system. He could be accurate. He could throw a touch. His arms it's okay. It's not bad. It's not good, like great, but it's not bad. And then, he because he's been in a pro style offense, he's taken snaps under center. I just it feels like that's one of those guys that they'll take a 5th, 6th, 7th round flyer pick on and see if they can't develop him and work on some of his other stuff. His footwork's pretty good too, but I mean, like, you just get the inconsistency is terrible with Tanner Morgan.
Absolutely. Oh, it's You
just don't know what you're going to get one week or the next. But let's go ahead and start these picks, man. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on a whole tangent about Tanner Morgan and everything, but that just popped up.
No, I think it's good that the audience hears these things. Yeah.
So your first pick, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a problem with this one, but go ahead.
So I'm quite certain you'll have a problem with this one. I like the vaunted Kentucky Wildcats to cover 12.5 points against the Vols.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I think, and I am projecting a lot in this.
You are projecting a lot.
I realize that, but I think there's something to be said for it will be the first time we've seen a fully healthy Will Levis play with the Chris Rodriguez. And I think that I don't think they win. I'm not saying we're getting a Wildcat upset. I do like them to cover that margin, though, because a couple things, for just those two being there. But with Levis, Kentucky might be able to throw the ball deep. That's the one weakness Tennessee's team has had. Their defensive backs haven't been great. People have thrown on them.
Yeah, I'll give you that. That's fine.
I absolutely think Tennessee will put up points. I think they'll put up points on anybody they play this year. But I just like the Kentucky to cover that spread. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to make 2 points against this because obviously I'm going to contest this because I'm sitting here wearing literally orange. I've got orange on my head. I've got a black orange, sweatshirt for Halloween because that's how we roll here in Tennessee, right? But especially we got the blackouts tomorrow too. We're bringing all black.
That's right. I forgot
black
about
helmet.
That. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful, baby. I thought the black uniforms last year were great, and now they're even better with the black helmets because the helmets are black this time. So it's all black and orange. And it's kind of like looks a little bit like those Miami uniforms.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But better because it's Tennessee. So I like that. But the first thing I'll point out is if you look at Tennessee's defense this year against the opponents that they've played with Jalen McCullough, 17 points to LSU, 24 to Pitt. Those were the big opponents that they played with Jalen McCullough, if I remember correctly. So
that's a fair point. Yeah,
they held up pretty good. McCullough's back.
Did he play against LSU?
No,
Okay.
No, yeah, he did. He did. The first game that he was out was the Alabama game
Okay.
because that
And that was
whole
LSU was
investigation came up.
13. And despite their slow start, that LSU team's pretty nasty right now. I mean, they're decent
That's
anyway.
the thing. That's
Yeah.
you know they put up points. You know they've put up a lot of points, and even before
Yeah.
that, they were putting up points. Granted, they hadn't really played anybody. That's why I was worried about them. I was worried about them because of the defense.
Okay.
But Tennessee has proven at this point they can play toe to toe with any defense in the country. They just can. I think if they walked into Iowa right now, they'd put 40 on them. To be honest. But
do you think there's any chance that they overlook Kentucky for Georgia next weekend?
that's what I was worried about, right?
No.
I was worried about that. But I'll tell you why I'm not worried about that at this point. And it's because look at the Eastern it was East Tennessee State last week, right?
No, UT Martin.
UT Martin, that's right.
UT
Okay.
Martin.
Look at the UT Martin game. Because I thought for sure that this was coming off that emotional win against Alabama. They were going to overlook UT Martin. UT Martin was going to probably put up a contest because UT Martin's been good this year. They walked into that game 4-2.
Relative to they have been good. Yes.
So I was worried about that. And so, like obviously because I'm a Tennessee Vol fan and, we're irrational people for the most part when it comes to our Vols and bleed orange. I went ahead and
found most of the SEC is irrational compared with the rest of the country.
Really are.
Okay.
It's just a pride thing. That's exactly what it is. It's pride. But no, so I took the spread and I was worried about it. I was worried about, UT Martin making a game, maybe staying within 20, and Tennessee was not distracted. They came out, they put 52 on them in the first half. So at that point, what that tells me about this team is that they're being extremely well coached. They're level. They've been in like heads on. They've been focused every single game they've played this year. And so that was the testing game to me as an analyst. I wanted to make sure that they came out and they played. They did. They beat UT Martin. They did everything they were supposed to. Came out there, even ran the clock out as fast as they possibly could to get that win, get that game over with. I'm not worried about it. I think that they're going to come out. They're going to play really strong against. I know that's a big spread, especially right now. I know Levis is back healthy. I know Rodriguez is back playing with him for the first time this year, basically. But here's the thing. That defense is not going to be able to handle UT coming at them because nobody yet has been able to handle this team coming at them. With the way that they stretch the field, with the way that they can create space with just their formations, with their motion, they find the weakness. They found it against Alabama. It was DeMarco Helms, right? That was the weakness against Alabama. They found him. They ID'd him. Helms' fucking draft stock dropped probably a good 3-4 rounds off of that game alone. But that's the thing is, I have full confidence in this coaching staff and in this team staying focused, getting through with it. I know it's a big game next week, but they're not thinking about next week. They got to get through Kentucky first. This is a respectable opponent. This was a 3-point game last year. Tennessee is not going to let that happen again.
I think that's a fair. Like I have no problem with you. I thought you challenged this one. And
Cedric Tillman's back too, by the way. So
that was that was the one question I had, and I'd heard he might be.
Tillman is back. He announced that he was giving free cookies out to Vol fans today on campus.
Oh, so, nice.
Yeah, that was his way of announcing it. So Tillman's back. McCollum's back. So we're going to have Cedric Tillman, Jalen Hyatt, and Brew McCoy. I just don't think that's anything that Kentucky can handle. Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. And I understand. That's I think you bring up a lot of good points, and I think what I lean on is something that even you mentioned. With those two guys healthy, that's just a big spread, and we'll see. I mean, it's that spread for a reason, and yeah, we'll see what happens tomorrow. I do hope. Selfishly, you mentioned Tillman being back. Due to the fantasy matchup I am in, I am glad that Tillman is back, even though it may hurt me in this pick because I'm playing against Hyatt. So I hope Tillman steals some of the thunder away from him.
Tillman takes some. Yeah, Hyatt tore me up last week in that league, dude.
Yeah.
I need to win this week or I'm done.
Okay.
My season's over.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, mine
no.
too.
So my first pick of the week.
Yeah.
I really like Ohio State 14.5 over Penn State.
Yeah.
I know this is a big spread, but I just haven't seen anything from Penn State that tells me they're going to be able to slow down Ohio State's offense and begin to score enough points on Ohio State's defense. It's like we've talked so much about CJ Stroud, Travion Henderson, all those receivers up there at Ohio State. Cade Stover even has gotten a lot of attention this year at tight end because he's been a weapon. But we haven't talked about how much better Ohio State's defense is this year. Like, I understand they played the most.
Yeah.
I understand they played the most incompetent offense in the Big 10 last week. I understand that. But the fact that defense was able to stand up and make up for a lot of the mistakes that the offense made, I love that. And this is also a defensive coordinator in Jim Knowles, who comes over from Oklahoma State. If you get on YouTube and you search Coach D is a guy, he posts all kinds of clinics. He posts all kinds of old practice tape, really good stuff, like teach tape stuff. He has the entire season of Ohio State's defense up there as teach tape in all 22 from last year. And it's because Jim Knowles is ridiculous in what he does schematically.
Okay.
He's brought this over to Ohio State. He's got 4 or 5-star athletes all across the field, and they are really starting to catch on to his scheme. They're playing really well here at the end of the season. I like them. Yeah. I honestly like them by 28. So,
I like the Buckeyes in that one to cover, that margin. And you talk about the one thing I wanted to point out. You mentioned Travion Henderson. I think everybody would say he's one of the top 5 running backs in the country, maybe even top 3. He's not even their leading rusher at this point.
No, Ryan Williams. That's crazy.
Henderson hasn't played a ton. So Williams has less carries, more yards, and more than twice as many touchdowns as Henderson has.
Yeah, Williams has been lights out too. Yeah.
We've also, in how well Ohio State has been, they also have what you could argue in Jackson Smith and Jigba has been one of the most disappointing players in the country this season.
Yeah, he hasn't been on the field either.
Especially from a fantasy standpoint. Like, he's been a bust. It's because he's hurt. He hasn't played bad. He hasn't played at all. So, they're doing this, what they're doing, not at full strength. And they're playing a team in Penn State who did what they had to do early. Then the first real top-notch team they played in Michigan, they got boat raced in that one. So I think that happens again tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So let's go ahead and move on to your second pick here, sir. What have you got for us?
I think for my second pick, I have is that TCU West Virginia?
I'm waiting for the ticker to come by.
Okay, I'm pretty sure.
We'll
talk about whatever it is. We'll talk about so I like TCU to cover 7.5 against West Virginia. The Horned Frogs have played very well so far. Their Max Dugan has done well since coming in for Chandler Morris. They have been a big play offense. I mean, we've seen them really play with fire a few times in some of their closer games. Kendre Miller's running the ball well, but TCU got fortunate against Kansas. They rolled Oklahoma. They got fortunate against Kansas, got some breaks against Oklahoma State. They were losing against Kansas State by quite a bit until everybody on Kansas State got hurt in that game, including 3 or 4 backups.
And then because of that, I think the coaches became so conservative in that game.
Yes.
At the end.
Yeah.
You go for that 4th down right there, man.
Yeah.
This is a shootout now.
Yeah.
You don't sit back and go to the defense.
No.
Yeah.
As much as TCU has been fortunate, played with fire, they've gotten it done when they've had to, but West Virginia just isn't a good football team this year. They've won a few. And I watched them. I watched them beat Baylor. They're 3-4 right now. That Baylor win is their only conference win. And another one, Blake Shapen got hurt, and Baylor's starting QB, which was a huge factor in that game.
Yeah.
But I don't expect West Virginia to win many more games. They've beaten Baylor, they beat Towson, who's in the FCS, and they rolled Virginia Tech, who was just not a good football team in year one of Brent Pry, who blew a huge lead last night. But
Yeah,
I think we might be past the beginning of the end for Neil Brown, but the end probably isn't too far away. Maybe he makes it to the end of the season. Maybe he gets axed with a week or two left. I have heard that the AD does actually like Brown. I don't know how much that saves him anymore. But I just can't see Neil Brown being their coach week one next year.
Yeah, I can't either. I don't see him making it through the season. I'm surprised he's made it this long. And I think that Baylor win is the only reason he still has a job.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But you're right about West Virginia. They're a terrible team. I agree with you on this pick. In fact, I was going to take this game until I looked at your picks and I saw you already had it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, of course he does.
Yeah, no, that's
no, I
fair.
don't care that you pick the games first. I'm just giving you shit because I can't.
Yeah. No, so, I know you are. Yeah. But that's why I like TCU. Even though 7.5 is a decent spread for those two teams. Like, it's not a gimme, but I
feel like that is a gimme. Yeah, and the only reason I say that is because TCU has beat people substantially this year. Even Kansas State, last week was by 10.
It was by 10. Yeah.
And that's the thing is that's what kind of shocked me about the spread. It was like, well, what do they know about West Virginia that I don't? Because I don't see that being a contested game at all.
Okay.
Really.
Yeah.
I don't see that being a touchdown game.
Okay.
Not at all. But I don't know. What do I know? I'm not Vegas. I don't have all this inside information all over all the time.
Yeah.
But so my second pick of the day, I really like Oklahoma over Iowa State. It's pretty much a pick 'em. It's -1 is the spread right now in favor of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But I understand that Oklahoma has struggled against some of the top teams. They're not a top Big 12 team this year, but neither is Iowa State. Iowa State has looked god awful at times too. They got lucky with their win over Iowa this year. I think they beat Iowa, right?
They did beat Iowa.
Yeah. It was very lucky. They were driving up and down the field and turning the ball over left and right. But
yeah, Iowa State is 3-4. They're 0-4 in the conference. So
that says it right there. They haven't won a conference game yet.
Yeah.
And every time you put on this team, it's just like, it's funny. We were talking about Matt Campbell, a few years ago as an NFL guy. Maybe he should have gone to the NFL. He might have gotten axed the same way that Matt Rule just did. But, he's kind of lost his touch with Iowa State. I don't know if it's recruiting. I don't know if it's just because they don't have a quarterback. But this is year 7 that he's there.
Yeah. It's
not looking great at all. And I like Oklahoma in this. Even I don't care who's playing quarterback. I don't care who's hurt. I just think Oklahoma wins this, and I don't think that it's going to be close.
I'm actually going to challenge you on this one. I like the Hawkeyes or the Cyclones to get conference win number 1 tomorrow in that game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to say they beat the Hawkeyes. That I believe is their last win. But I'm going Iowa State on this one. They're a team who you look back at Campbell's history there. They're in every single game. His year 2 there, they played Billy Napier when he was at Louisiana Lafayette, and the Cajuns got 1 kick, 1 punt return for a touchdown. They beat Iowa State by 17. It's the only game Campbell's lost by more than 14 since he's been there. I realize the spread in this one is significantly closer, but I think that speaks to they're in every game. They're a team who is always competing. Their losses this year, they lost to Baylor by 7. Kansas by 3, Kansas State by 1, and Texas by 3. Now, I'm going to be a little bit of a hypocrite here. I said, people for years were telling me, oh, Scott Frost was in all these games. I said, yeah, winning close games is part of the job. That's how we're measured sometimes. And it certainly should be for Campbell. I'm not taking away and saying he's good because they've lost these close games. but I think they're close. And I think they get it done tomorrow in that game against Oklahoma, who is not at full strength. And we've not seen play great defense so far this year, especially run defense.
So we've got 2 challenges already.
We do have 2. Yep.
Interesting. All right.
The next one.
Yeah, your third.
My next game. Oh, I pride myself in being a non-emotional person. I don't let the heartstrings get in my way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't become a homer very often. And this was the toughest. This was the toughest game for me to pick, but I decided to go with the Gamecocks against Mizzou tomorrow at home. And it's 3.5 points. And I'm going to give a lot of reasons why I'm scared of this pick, to be honest.
Okay.
In my time here, we've not played well against Mizzou. Eli Drinkwitz has had our number. And I'm including the year before he went to Mizzou, App State came here with him and beat us. So he's had good luck against us. And Mizzou they seem to be doing some things better. They got a close one against Vandy, but
Vandy's a much improved team. Vandy's not who he used to be. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, we talked about that before.
Yeah,
but I think Mizzou. I think Drinkwitz is a good coach. I think they're starting to go in the right direction. Why I'm picking the Gamecocks? They're on a heater right now. They're playing pretty good football. Marshawn Lloyd is running the ball well.
Mm-hmm.
Beal Smith is running it well when he's in the game, which he's never in when they don't run. The
Right.
O-line is finally getting a push. Special teams wise, we match up with anybody. Our special teams has been very stellar, though Missouri actually is also playing very good special teams. So it may not be as much of an advantage.
Stay in that game against Georgia too, with that field goal kicker knocking through everything. Melvis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one Spencer Rattler is not lighting the world on fire. I think at this point we might know what he is. Mm-hmm. However, since we've been winning games, Kentucky and last week against A&M, he's at least not turning the ball over anymore, which is a big step in the right direction for him. So, and South Carolina's D-backs are Darius Rush is one of the best corners in the Southeastern Conference. They're doing some good things there. They're finally rushing the passer well as well. So those are some of the reasons, along with lack of finding in the 5th game that I loved. This game is in the middle of my list, but it was actually the last one I picked. That's why I said it that way.
Okay, so
that's why
I am challenging you on this.
Oh, I thought you would, John.
This is not. You just went through all the reasons why you pride yourself on. You're not an emotional person. This is 100% emotional because you just picked against Tennessee, so I'm picking against you. So. But seriously, to rationalize it a little bit, because, you do have to rationalize these types of things. You can't just, go on a whim and on emotion, as you very well know here, sir. But to rationalize it out a little bit, Mizzou's defense is legit, I think. They've got a lot of NFL guys.
I think both these defenses are, absolutely.
Yeah, but they got a lot of NFL guys on there. I love Joseph Charleston, who transferred in from Clemson. I loved him at Clemson. I thought he should have, stuck around there and played that role, but he didn't want to. He went to Mizzou, and now he's playing a better role. So kudos to him for making a really good choice. I think their secondary is pretty good. They got a transfer in from TCU, Ishburdine, I believe his name is. Yeah. He's been pretty darn good this year. And they got those edge rushers. Those edge rushers are magnificent. DJ Coleman coming in from Jacksonville State. This is a Senior Bowl guy. He's been good. Jeff Coat has been great. I believe, is he related to the old Cowboy Jeff Coat? I think he is, isn't he?
That was Jim. He had his oldest boy played at Texas for the Longhorns. I remember that. And this one, I'm actually that was Jackson. This one, I don't honestly know if.
Yeah, I don't either. That hit me as I was saying that, and I was like, I keep meaning to look that up, and I keep forgetting. But no, Jeff Coat's been great. They got another edge rusher. I can't think of his name right now, but there's another one on that team too that's been really good this year. Like I didn't even realize DJ Coleman was on the team until I think 2 weeks ago when I was about to turn on some Jacksonville State tape, and I was like, where the fuck is he?
Okay.
And then I was like, oh, he transferred to Mizzou. I missed that completely. I don't know how I missed it, but I did. So, but no, I think their defense is pretty good. Brady Cook is basically Matt Ryan, except 6 foot Matt Ryan. So,
I feel ashamed of this, John. I'm sorry for cutting you off, but the Jeff coat at Mizzou is almost certainly not related to the other ones because Trajan, one at Mizzou, is from a town that's about 5 minutes away from me around Columbia, South Carolina.
Oh yeah, no, definitely not then. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, but he's from Irma, which is right outside of Columbia. So literally, I could get to his high school in less than 20 minutes from where I'm at now. And it's a shame the Gamecocks didn't get him.
No, it is a shame because Mizzou got him, and he's been really good. He's an NFL guy. But yeah, I like that defense. I think that defense stands up. I think they make life very difficult, and just really, it does. It is an emotional pick. It really comes down to I just hated the fact that you had to pick against Tennessee this week. Yep. So
no, that's
I had
fair.
to give that back.
Yeah, that's all part of my plan. Knowing I have the commanding 25-point lead.
You do, and now I'm desperate. Now I have to.
I'm saying getting you to make the challenges is good for me at this point.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All right, so I like. So my third pick is I really like the Arkansas in their game this week. They're only favored by 3 over Auburn, and I thought that was a crazy spread.
It's really funny that I laughed when I saw this pick.
Yeah,
I'm not going to challenge you, by the way, on this one.
But you were thinking about it.
No, not that.
Oh, okay.
When I picked South Carolina instead, I almost picked this game, but I almost picked Auburn.
No,
I'm not confident in either of these teams. Arkansas has played a tough schedule, but they're 4-3. Auburn has been a train wreck most of the year, but they seem to be doing some things. But they're at least giving the ball to Tank Bigsby now, which they weren't even doing that before.
Well, they got that lead against Ole Miss last week. They blew the lead against Ole Miss, by the way, but they had the lead and they were giving it to Tank Bigsby, and then they lost the lead and they started throwing it and they failed.
Yep.
So,
and both of these teams are 1-3 in conference play.
Yep.
Schedules aren't getting any easier for them. The game is in Auburn, I think, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Jordan,
again, I'm not challenging you, but I found it funny because I almost picked this one only. I almost picked Auburn, but at this point, how can you have any faith in Robbie Ashford, Finley, Brian Harson's play? There's not much about Auburn to look forward to other than they're one of those teams you look at how they've done, and I feel like you look at that roster, they can't possibly be as bad as they're doing. Texas A&M's kind of the same way. It's how are they just as bad as they are?
Is worse than Auburn at this point because considering the talent to how they played, ratio, whatever you want to call that. But no, I like Arkansas, and I understand that they've had a tough season, but they've also had a pretty rough schedule.
They certainly have.
You catch Mississippi State off of that win coming off of Texas A&M. We also didn't realize that Texas A&M was as bad as they are at that point. But
I'm trying to think about
that was when they got them.
So Arkansas's one conference win was against South Carolina week 2,
and they destroyed South Carolina. That was not a problem.
No, it was a 12 or 13. It was a 2-possession game. Anyway,
destroyed.
Yeah,
destroyed.
2 possessions is not destroyed.
You guys scored in garbage time to make it a 2-possession game. It was a 3-possession game most of the game.
Yeah, it was for a good portion of the game.
Destroyed you.
Yeah,
it was bad. It wasn't even a contest, man. It was one of those games where people turned it off and turned on another game because it was better on TV. That was what happened in that game.
I was watching Texas and Alabama at that time. So
I know everybody was.
But Arkansas has lost. So they beat BYU.
Yep.
BYU isn't that good. I thought BYU was going to be better than they are.
We both
but
did.
Then
I talked you into thinking BYU was going to be better. So.
Well, I didn't need much talking into, though, in fairness. They got rolled by Mississippi State the week before.
Yep.
Alabama. Actually, that game against Alabama was pretty close for a while because that was the game Bryce Young got hurt.
Yeah,
so Arkansas kept that closer longer than we expected, and then A&M, it was a missed field goal at the end that
they should have had.
Let A&M hang on. But also the week before that, Arkansas, they were losing to Missouri State most of that game.
Missouri, the one they overlooked, yeah.
Yeah. FCS, Missouri State.
I don't think they're overlooking anything at this point. I think they are.
I don't focused. Either. I think you're right.
I think that this is a big game for them. This is look. If we lose to fucking Auburn, our season is done.
Yeah, they let's see with so Arkansas, like we said, they have 4 wins, and if they lose to Auburn, I was going to say they don't go to a bowl game. They actually still might because they play Liberty out of conference, and then they end the year with Mizzou, so they actually still could go to a bowl game.
No, but this is a big game for Sam Pittman. Like he's rallying his guys at this point. He's like, hey, we're going to win out from this point on. That's what we're going to go do. We're going to go beat LSU. We're going to get to keep the boot for another year. We're going to do all that.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing right now. And I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to go out there and just roll Auburn because what does Auburn have to offer to stop Arkansas? Like nothing.
Their D-line is not bad.
No, the D-line, okay. D-line has a bunch of NFL guys on it. Derek Hall. I love Derek Hall. Colby Wooden is a really good one too. But
my worry with Auburn, though, is that at some point we get to the realization where the coaches and players know that this is the end and
they don't care.
There's going to be a new staff in here next year. We're going to be looking for jobs, and you guys might be looking at the portal for somewhere else, pending on who the new coaches are. And everybody just kind of washes their hands of this season and moves on. I don't know if that happens tomorrow, but if I was an Auburn fan, I'd be worried it happens at some point before too long.
I think it happens tomorrow because you had the chance with Ole Miss and you blew that gigantic lead. You've been just rolled by just about everybody else in the conference.
Yeah,
they're done tomorrow. That's my pick. But so I like Arkansas. I think 3.5 is a very small spread. I like it. It. So your fourth,
my next game, my game number 4. I like SMU -1 against Tulsa. These teams are both 3 and 4.
Yeah.
It is. I believe it's in Dallas. Wait, no, it is in Tulsa, but
Oklahoma.
Yep. Tanner Mordecai has thrown the ball well. So is Davis Brin for Tulsa, for that matter.
He was the nation's leader for a while.
Yep. These teams are both okay at running it, not great. Rashee Rice gets all the targets for SMU. It's unbelievable.
I was going to say that. Thank you for pointing that out. Yep.
Yeah. But at a 1-point spread, it's basically who do you like to win? I'm going to pick SMU in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you, and I'll tell you why. And it's because SMU has all them receivers. SMU is not a bad team. They've been competitive. Outside of the UCF game, and I think there was maybe one other, they've been very competitive.
And they got a new coach coming in. I mean, I think they experienced a lot of change, especially for a team that plays the way they do and the style they are.
With a team that had all the experience that it had, and everybody's learning a new system. I think that's kind of held them back a little bit too. They're going to settle in the last month of the season and win some games.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think SMU wins. I'm not challenging that at all. And I like that one. If you hadn't taken it first, I would have taken it.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There's usually 2 or 3 of them in your picks where I'm like, I would have taken that one. So
that's fair.
Pick,
yeah.
My 4th pick is I like Oklahoma State as underdogs to Kansas State. So last week I talked about TCU dropping a game emotionally to Kansas State. I also did not anticipate that Adrian Martinez would not play.
Yeah.
Adrian Martinez may not play this week.
I don't think he will. But you're right. We don't know.
Nobody knows.
Will Howard played well when he went in the game, though. It was just the third guy that looked really bad when he went in.
Kansas State, I think I'm pretty well connected with that program. I've spoke with a lot of people from the program, players, everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody had anything bad to say about Will Howard.
Yeah.
And I think even the guys that were blocking for him last year, when Skyler was hurt those couple games,
Yeah.
they even said, look, he's a great quarterback. He was just so inexperienced and he was thrown to the wolves, and there was not much else that we can do about it. He's going to be a great quarterback. So I don't think that's really the concern. I think they were lucky to get Adrian Martinez for another year to buy time for him to develop. And I think we're going to look at him next year as one of the top Big 12 quarterbacks.
Could be. Yeah.
But Howard's good. But even if Martinez plays, I think that Oklahoma State has the edge. And they've just done it every week. They found a way to finish. They just have every week. We turn on. They're
not
back.
every week.
Okay, yeah. But just about. They got past that one, right? But they found a way to beat Texas.
Yeah.
Texas was beating them most of that game.
They were
last week.
Yeah.
So they found a way to win. Jason Taylor the second, no relation to the first one that we know of from the Miami Dolphins.
Whose son Mason plays for LSU.
For LSU, right? Exactly. I thought,
yeah.
Dude, I was so shocked when I found out that I had no idea that he married Zach Taylor's sister. And so his son.
I didn't know that either.
Bro, his son.
I didn't know that.
Playing at LSU is the nephew of Zach Taylor, the son of Jason, or Zach Thomas, the son of Jason.
Zach
Taylor.
Thomas.
I thought that was
okay.
Yeah, Zach Thomas. Yeah.
I was like Zach, I was thinking like the Bengals coach. What?
No,
that's
a
while.
No. He married Zach Thomas is what I meant to say.
That makes sense.
They played together, and were just stellar defenders at Miami for a decade, right?
Yeah. Oh, at least, yeah.
But yeah,
in the hubbub of this conversation, I didn't verbalize yet. I am challenging this game, so I'm going with K-State actually. Yeah. So I'm going with the Wildcats. Deuce Vaughn should be back.
Yeah.
Even with Howard, Kansas State is just a really solid team with Chris Kleiman. They do everything they're not great at some things, but they're not bad at anything. They're pretty solid all around. They're salty both sides of the line, and they don't make many mistakes. They're not throwing particularly, they're not throwing touchdowns really, but Kleiman is a guy who, he took over. He was the D coordinator at NDSU when they won all kinds of FCS national titles, became the head coach, won a bunch more, went to K-State, and he's a guy now we're hearing maybe a candidate for Nebraska, maybe a candidate for Wisconsin. I don't know if either of those happen, but they're just a solid team, and they're also a team, I will say, I didn't watch much of up until the last couple, like the first 5-6 weeks. I saw what they were doing, but I didn't really watch them. Then the last couple weeks, these guys are pretty good. Then last week, when they were healthy, they were looking really good in that game. Then the wheels fell off the bus. But I am challenging this one and going with the Wildcats tomorrow.
So we're up to 4 challenges.
We are.
Damn.
Yeah.
It's gonna be wild. All right, go ahead with your 5th pick.
We may get our 5th challenge here. I am going with the Mighty Miners of UTEP at home to cover 2.5 against Middle Tennessee State. Another one where I think 2 fairly even teams, close margin, where more or less, picking who's going to win the game. Not technically, but if we look at UTEP's history with Dana Dimmel, they're beating almost all the teams that are in their range or worse. Then they just get destroyed by the teams that are way better than them. But I think Middle Tennessee is in that realm of they're in the same range. I don't think they're that much better. So I look for the no frills, fundamental, UTEP team. They're AWAT's running the ball well. Smith has been a decent receiver. I am troubled by Hardison is throwing a lot of interceptions this year. I think that could be a nerve-wracking point for UTEP. But other than that,
considering that it was interceptions that got MTSU the win over Miami.
Yeah. Bradley Dale Pivito, my former head coach when I was a grad assistant at Northwestern State, is the D coordinator at UTEP. I'll give him a shout out.
Oh.
But Dimmel has some very glaring stats as a head coach, and I'm playing the long game with his stats as a head coach in this one.
Apparently
and
so.
Going with UTEP. Clearly, you disagree.
Yeah. So the reason I'm disagreeing is because I got a tip from a friend of the show and a fellow Sharp, and that'd be Thor Nystrom. And somehow Thor got your picks before we went on air.
Oh yes, I sent them to them when I sent. I emailed them to you, and then he asked me who I was picking, and I sent him a picture of him. Yep.
Well, so I get a text from Thor, and he goes, "Well, hey, challenge that UTEP pick." So I'm thinking Thor knows something that I don't, but it's just another example of you just hating on the state of Tennessee.
He is on. I do know he is on Middle Tennessee, so he and his adjusted Thor line, his system. So the Vegas has it as -2.5 for UTEP. He has it basically a 5-point swing that it should be -2.5 to Middle. So, yeah.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and take it.
Fair.
And this is a team that, they struggled the last few weeks. I think this is a rebound game for them. And UTEP, they've been really on and off. They have.
Absolutely. Yes.
And like you said, they usually beat the teams that are close to them. It hasn't been the case this year. They should have destroyed North Texas if that was the case. They got destroyed by North Texas. All right, the Mean Green, they might be mean by name. They're not very mean right now. They haven't been impressive, not at least to me. Throughout the entire, they've been just as inconsistent though. But that's the thing is, I like MTSU, just because there's another emotional pick. Yeah. Thor said it. You're against a state. I didn't care about MTSU until you decided to pick against them, so I'm picking them. And we got 5, not 3, not 4, not 5 challenges tonight.
Full disclosure, I also sent Thor your picks, and he told me that I should think about going K-State, which I was thinking about anyway.
Oh.
So we're both leaning on him for one of ours.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the sharp here is infiltrating and influencing us. That's great.
Yeah.
Great. Shout out to Thor. He's one of the best. So that is your 5th pick. So I guess I have my 5th pick left to go with.
Yep.
I do. So my 5th pick is I really like, this is a big spread too. This is a big spread. I like Michigan State plus 22.5 against Michigan.
Such a big spread. Yeah. Every week I say this on the show, and you probably know what I'm going to say now.
Yeah.
I see a game and I look at it. No, I'm not touching this. This was that game. Because it's like everything points to Michigan rolling. But at that spread, I'm not touching it.
See, that was the thing is I looked at it, right? I saw it. I looked at it. And I kind of had that feeling of dread that you just discussed, which is, I don't want to touch this. But it was like, no, wait. This is Michigan versus Michigan State. This is one of the biggest rivalries in the Big Ten, outside of probably Michigan and Ohio State. Yep. This is a crazy game every year. You don't know what's going to happen. It's not. When was the last time there was a big giant rollover in this game? I can't remember one. I can't remember somebody winning by 2 touchdowns.
It was probably, I was going to say maybe earlier in Harbaugh's tenure they did one, but even then,
this is always a close game because of the rivalry. This is
totally,
one of those games. You take whatever's going on during the season and you toss it out. It's just like the Iron Bowl. You toss it out. You go, I have no idea what's going to happen, but it's going to be close. So when they had 22.5 on this, I was like, unless Mel Tucker died, unless the quarterback had to leave school because he decided to attack Tucker and killed him, I don't know what happened. Whatever that was, this is not going to be a 22.5 point spread. No way. Absolutely not.
I'm fine with that. Yeah. Again, it's one of those, I could see it going either way. And had you picked Michigan in this one, I still wouldn't have challenged it. I wasn't going to go anywhere near this.
Yeah, I got you. That makes sense. Yeah, and Michigan's played great, this year for the most part. That's the other thing too is there's been games, and I know I just said throw everything out that we've seen these two teams do this year, but there's been games we've seen Michigan look, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like they got a weakness. There's a problem. And they come back in the fourth quarter and they put on some points and further that spread. But that Maryland game was really close. That Indiana game was really close.
Maybe Maryland's not as bad as we think, though. Yeah.
No, I'm not saying Maryland's bad, but I'm just no, they're not. But I'm just saying all those games that Michigan played, against the in conference this year have been really close until that fourth quarter. This might be that first game of the season against a rival where when they normally start to take off and they create that spread, that things kind of go wrong. It doesn't go right for them.
Certainly. Yeah. At this spread, I'm not taking it. I do fully expect Michigan to go into the Ohio State game undefeated. I think both of them will. Mm-hmm. And who knows what's going to happen when it comes to that game.
That's that game, man. It's that stinking look. It's huge, right? It's one of those big. It's just that rivalry game that everybody's scared to death of. Everybody looks forward to. It's going to be a great game. I can't wait to watch it. Yeah. It's going to be great tomorrow, but I don't think it's going to be any 22.5 point spread. That's another, how these tricks work in the industry, man. It's like when you see 22.5, that's automatically jump on it one way or another, whichever way you think it's going to swing, because that's more than 3 touchdowns. That means if they win by 3 touchdowns, you're good. So that's one of those spreads where you just kind of you got to jump on that. Like 14.5 is kind of give or take, unless you're really confident, don't take it. 3.5 is kind of like that too. It's those 2.5, 6.5, and then anything like this, jump on it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
I like it. Yeah. I'm okay. Again, I'm okay with that. And either way, I wasn't going to touch that game.
5 challenges.
5.
We thought 4 last week was a lot.
It was
5.
Yeah.
Now, 2 or 3 of these are emotionally charged. The other 2 are being pushed by Thor. That's fine.
Yeah. Honestly, like looking at these games, I would be surprised if either one of us even gets 4. It'll probably be a 3-2 split one way. That's maybe 4-1. But
I could tie it. I could win all 5, and I could tie next week. We could be going back in with a clean slate. So
what if I'm up 50 when we're
if you're up 50, then I'm literally going to be. I'm going to be like, this pick is double or nothing. You know.
Challenge. Everything is just challenge.
I'm putting 50 points on this one. Yeah, it's going to get crazy. So cool, man. I think that was a good run tonight on Gridiron Eve. Yeah. Anything else that you want to throw out to the people before we say goodnight?
I don't know that we have much to talk about. Extra, we do have some big FCS games tomorrow. Lord knows I love talking about those.
Yes, you do.
We have game day at
Jackson State
FCS game. Which whatever. I don't say whatever. I say that because if we're gonna, for me, it's a gimmick. We know why it's a gimmick, but I have no problem if you're gonna go to an FCS game. Pick one that's actually meaningful to their playoffs, though, and those teams that are gonna have a run at the national title. Don't just go there because some guy who's one of the best players ever is coaching there, and we're on the national map now. I'm not saying that to put down Dion. He's great. He's done wonders for that program. But on the merits, these 2 teams probably shouldn't have gotten a game day. Now, you look at the FBS games. Most of the games in the running had teams that either recently had it or are probably going to get it soon. So I get that there's that caveat. So I'm probably just being a hater and sour grapes. And
you probably are.
If someone's going to level that at me, I deserve it tomorrow. For saying
especially if Jackson State loses, then you.
That's
And I just got a text. I got a text from Thor saying that we can't blame him for record number of challenges tonight. Yeah, we absolutely can, buddy. It's your fault.
Oh, by the way,
You gotta stop influencing us.
I'm actually going to go back to one of my Louisiana connections, and one of my roommates, Rod Kirshner, care about this guy a lot. Great person, great friend. He works in the Southern Athletic Department, so I'm all about the Jags in that one tomorrow too.
Oh yeah, so
Yep.
yeah, they haven't been terrible either. So
No, not at all. Yeah,
and they had their Senior Bowl player last year too, the offensive lineman.
that's
that
right.
came out.
I forgot
Tackle
about
Carter,
that.
Jair
Yeah.
Carter. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a good one. He's still in the league. He's playing right now. I think he's backup. I can't remember where he went because
I don't either. But yeah.
There's too many dudes to keep track of. I'm lucky that I remember as much as I do, man. But hey, that was a great episode of Gridiron Eve. We will be back at it next week, right here on whatever you're watching, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, whatever that is. We're going to be there. We'll be discussing all of our picks. We'll be talking. Hopefully, I will be tied again. I know that's a long shot. That's like trying to win a giant parlay. But we'll be tied next week.
Thor just texted in our group thread. Vogel is going 5-0 in challenges this week.
Yeah, no, I saw it come through.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. Go 5-0. All right. The Sharp said it himself. He set you up to fail. He's Mike Huseman. I'm John Vogel. This has been Gridiron Eve. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back at it next week, guys.